The moment that broke something open in me didn't happen in a dramatic fight or a slammed door. It happened quietly, over pasta and garlic bread, while everyone was laughing at something my brother-in-law said, and I was sitting right there at the table, invisible. My mother-in-law, Diane, was dabbing her eyes from laughing so hard. My husband's sister, Faye, was refilling everyone's wine, and my father-in-law, Gerald, leaned back in his chair with that satisfied look he gets when the whole family is together. His whole family, and said, almost to himself, "This is going to be the best anniversary trip we've ever taken." I smiled. I had spent 4 months planning it. I want to tell you what kind of person I was before that dinner. I was the kind of person who said yes before being asked. I married into this family when I was 26, fresh out of grad school, still figuring out who I was. My husband, Kevin, was kind and funny and made me feel like I had finally found somewhere I belonged. His family was big and loud and warm. Or so I thought. I wanted so badly to be part of it that I didn't notice, for a long time, that the warmth wasn't actually directed at me. It was there from the beginning if I had paid attention. Little things. Diane would address Christmas cards to Kevin and family, but only mention the kids by name. Never mine. Faye had a group chat with her mom and Kevin that I found out about 2 years into the marriage. The one where they coordinated holidays, and I was never added. Gerald would tell stories about Kevin's first girlfriend, a woman named Trish, who apparently everyone adored, with a fondness in his voice that he never used when he talked about me. Once, early on, I overheard Diane on the phone telling someone that Kevin had settled down, and something in her voice made it clear she did not mean it as a compliment. But I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself I just needed more time. I told myself that if I was helpful enough, thoughtful enough, present enough, eventually they would see me as one of their own. So I made myself useful. Kevin's parents were turning 30 years married in the spring. Diane had mentioned, once, at a birthday dinner, that she had always dreamed of a trip to Napa Valley for a big anniversary. She said it the way people say things they don't expect to actually happen. Wistful. Throwaway. But I filed it away. In January, I started planning. I researched boutique hotels in Napa. I found a vineyard that did private tours and paired dinners for groups. I called a car service to coordinate pickups from SFO. I built a shared itinerary with restaurant reservations, tasting room slots, a sunset picnic on a hill overlooking the valley. I even found a local photographer who specialized in family portraits outdoors and blocked off 2 hours on the Saturday afternoon. I did all of this on my own. I paid the deposits on my credit card, over $3,000 across 3 different vendors, with the understanding that everyone would reimburse me when the trip was confirmed. I sent Kevin a summary. He read it and said, "Babe, this is incredible. They're gonna love you for this." I believed him. I brought it up at the family dinner in February, the one Diane hosts every second Sunday. I had printed out the itinerary. I had made it look nice. I set a copy at everyone's place like it was a menu. Gerald picked it up and raised his eyebrows. "Napa," he said. Well, someone did their homework. Diane looked it over for a long moment. Then she smiled. That particular smile she has that reaches her eyes just slightly too late. "This is so thoughtful, sweetheart." She reached over and patted my hand. "We'll take a look and let you know." I thought that meant yes. I thought that meant thank you. I thought we were all on the same page. For the next 6 weeks, the trip came up constantly at family dinners. Faye talked about what she was going to pack. Kevin's brother Douglas argued with Gerald about whether they needed to rent a car, or if the car service I'd arranged was enough. Diane looked up the vineyard I'd booked online and showed Gerald photos of the property. Everyone talked around me and through me and past me, and I sat there nodding and smiling, and feeling like I was the event planner at someone else's party. But I told myself, they're just excited. That's all this is. Then came the Sunday dinner in March. I had made the salad that night, the same lemon herb one Diane had asked me to bring 3 times before. I was in the kitchen, helping Douglas's wife Renee slice bread, when I heard Faye say, from the dining room, "So who's sharing a room with Mom and Dad's extra space on the last night?" Because I was thinking maybe the kids could. "I figured Douglas and Renee take that one," Diane said. "And you and your husband take the garden suite. That way we have everyone together on the last night." "What about Kevin's room?" Douglas asked. "Kevin can take the corner room. It's just him anyway. The kids will be asleep by then, so..." I walked back into the dining room with the breadbasket. The conversation didn't stop exactly. It just shifted slightly, the way a river moves around a rock. "Just Kevin?" I said. I kept my voice light. "I thought we were all going." There was a pause. Not a long one. Faye looked at her plate. Diane tilted her head. "Oh, sweetheart, we just thought, with your job and the timing, it would be a lot of travel for you. We figured you'd want to stay home with the dog." I looked at Kevin. Kevin was looking at his fork. "I planned the trip," I said. "You did, and it's going to be wonderful," Diane said warmly. "We are so grateful for everything you put together. You have such a talent for this." What she did not say, "You are coming." What she did not say, "Of course we want you there." What she did not say, "You are part of this family and it would not be the same without you." I sat down. I picked up my fork. Someone changed the subject to something about Gerald's golf league, and the conversation moved on, and I sat in the middle of it and felt the floor drop out from under me. I drove home that night in silence. Kevin tried to explain, or not explain really. More like, manage. He said his mother had mentioned it to him weeks ago, that she thought it would be a more intimate trip if it was just immediate family. He said he thought I understood. He said he didn't realize I was expecting to come. I asked him if he had told her I was coming. He said he hadn't thought he needed to. I didn't yell. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. Not then. I just looked at him in the driveway for a long moment and said, "After 8 years, your mother still doesn't consider me immediate family." He didn't answer. I went inside and sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I thought about every Sunday dinner, every Christmas where I coordinated the gift exchange and wasn't included in the family photo until someone remembered and waved me in as an afterthought. Every birthday where Diane would say, "You're so good to Kevin," like my primary value was service. Every time I had folded myself smaller and smiled wider and worked harder and waited and waited and waited to be seen. I thought about the $3,000 sitting on my credit card. And then I got very calm. The next morning, I opened my laptop. I had all the confirmation emails, every vendor, every reservation, every deposit. I emailed the boutique hotel first. I explained there had been a change in plans. The cancellation policy allowed a full refund up to 45 days out. We were at 43. The refund would go back to my card. I hit send. The vineyard tour and paired dinner was trickier. They had a 60-day policy, and we were past it. But I had paid with a credit card that had travel protection, and I called the card company and explained the situation calmly, and they opened a dispute. The charge was on hold, pending review. The car service I had booked was the easiest, no cancellation fee within 48 hours of booking, and I had never formally confirmed the final head count. I emailed them and said the party size had changed and I needed to cancel. Done. The family photographer I released with a full refund. She was gracious about it and said she hoped we'd rebook someday. One by one, every piece of the trip I had built disappeared. I didn't tell Kevin. I went to work. I came home. I made dinner. I answered messages in the family group chat with the same cheerful shorthand I always used. When Faye texted asking if I had the confirmation number for the vineyard because she wanted to look at the menu, I told her I'd dig it up and send it over. I never did. The trip was in 6 weeks. I had 6 weeks of being completely normal. I want to be honest about what that time felt like, because it wasn't triumphant. It wasn't satisfying the way revenge looks in movies. It was quiet and heavy and a little bit hollow. Some nights I would lie awake wondering if I was the one being cruel, wondering if I had misread things, wondering if this was just how family worked and I had unrealistic expectations. And then I would remember Diane's voice saying, "Just him anyway." Casually, automatically, like my existence at that table was a scheduling detail she'd already sorted out. And the hollowness would harden into something steadier. Kevin noticed I was quieter than usual. I told him I was tired. He accepted that. I noticed he didn't push. 3 days before the trip, I told him the truth. I sat him down at the kitchen table, the same table where I had sat alone in the dark that Sunday night, and I told him I had canceled everything. Calmly, looking at him. The color left his face. "All of it," he said. "All of it," I said. He stared at me. Then he grabbed his phone and started calling his mother. I watched him from across the table. I watched his face as she picked up, as he tried to explain. as her voice rose on the other end of the line. I could hear it from where I was sitting, not the words, just the pitch. The panic. He looked at me while he was still on the phone. His expression kept shifting. I could see him trying to find the version of this where I was the problem, the one who had done something wrong, the one he could be angry at. And then I could see the moment he couldn't quite get there. Because he knew. He had known the whole time and done nothing, and we both knew that. He hung up. He sat down across from me. "She's calling Douglas," he said. "They're going to have to figure out hotels on their own. The vineyard is probably sold out. The car service is canceled too," I said. He put his face in his hands. I wasn't glad. I want to be clear about that. I wasn't sitting there gloating. I felt tired in a way that went all the way down. The kind of tired that comes from finally stopping something you've been holding up for a long time. The family group chat did what I expected. Faye sent 3 panicked messages in a row. Douglas sent a voice memo that I didn't listen to. Gerald texted Kevin privately, which Kevin showed me just 2 words: "What happened?" Diane called Kevin 4 times in an hour. She did not call me. Kevin and I talked until 2 in the morning. It wasn't a fight exactly. It was more like an excavation. 8 years of things neither of us had said clearly, finally being said clearly. He cried at one point, which surprised me. He said he had told himself, for years, that his family just needed more time to warm up to me. He said he hadn't wanted to see how bad it had actually gotten. He said he was sorry. I believed him. I also knew that sorry was a beginning, not an ending. The next day, Diane called me directly for the first time in a long time. I picked up. She was careful. I'll give her that. She didn't yell. She started by saying she understood if I was hurt, that she may not have communicated things as well as she should have, that she hoped we could talk. She said the family was scrambling to put something together, but that everything was falling apart. She said she missed having me around. I let her talk. And when she finished, I said, "Diane, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer me honestly. After 8 years, do you consider me part of your family?" There was a long silence. Long enough that I knew the answer before she gave it. "Of course you are," she said. But there was a beat before it, a breath. And in that breath was everything. "I don't think you do," I said. "I think you consider me Kevin's wife. I think you've been polite to me and included me in things out of obligation. But I don't think you've ever really thought of me as yours." She started to protest. I let her. Then I said, "I'm not calling to argue. I'm calling to tell you that I am not going to keep making myself smaller to fit into a version of this family that doesn't actually have room for me. If that changes, if you want to actually know me, not just tolerate me, I'm open to that, but I'm done working for a place at the table." I hung up. I went and made coffee. I stood at the kitchen window and watched the neighbor's dog bark at something in their yard. My hands were steady. Kevin came downstairs a few minutes later. He stood in the doorway looking at me. "What happens now?" he asked. I poured a second mug and slid it across the counter to him. "I don't know yet," I said. "But it's going to be different." The trip happened, a reduced version of it. Kevin's family managed to find a hotel at the last minute, picked up a few tasting room walk-in slots, drove themselves. From what Kevin told me, it was fine. Not what I had built for them, but fine. Diane sent me a text 2 weeks after they got back. It said, "I've been thinking about what you said. I would like to get lunch sometime, just the 2 of us, if you're open to it." I read it 3 times. I didn't answer right away. I thought about what I wanted, not what was expected, not what would keep the peace, not what would make Kevin's life easier or Diane's guilt smaller. What I actually wanted. I waited 2 days. Then I wrote back, "I'm open to it. But I want you to know that I'm showing up as myself this time, not as Kevin's wife, as me. If that works for you, let me know when." She replied, "That works for me." "How's Thursday? I don't know what lunch will look like. I don't know if Diane is capable of the kind of change I'm asking for, or if this is just another version of the same polite management she's always offered me. I don't know if Faye and I will ever be close, or if Gerald will ever say my name the way he says the names of people he actually loves. But I know this. I am done earning my place in rooms I helped build. I am done swallowing hurt and nodding and clearing plates and waiting to be claimed. I have a name. I have a seat at the table. And if someone tries to plan around me like I'm not there, I'll be the one holding the reservations. I used to think patience was the same thing as strength. That if I just kept showing up, kept making the salad, kept booking the hotels, kept smiling through the dinners where my name was the one that didn't get said, eventually the equation would balance out. That kindness given long enough would come back around. That's not naivety, exactly. It's something more like hope, with no floor under it. What I understand now, sitting on the other side of all of it, is that actions have weight whether or not anyone acknowledges them. Every time I folded myself smaller in that dining room, I was teaching everyone at that table, including Kevin, including myself, that it was okay to take up less space than I deserved. I wasn't being gracious. I was being erased, slowly, and calling it grace, so I didn't have to feel how much it hurt. The thing about Diane is that she isn't a villain. That was the hardest part to sit with. She didn't exclude me from that trip because she was cruel. She excluded me because, after 8 years, she had simply never made the decision to let me in, and nobody, including her own son, had ever asked her to reckon with that. When I finally did, when I asked her directly if she considered me family and heard that half-second pause before her answer, I wasn't angry anymore. I was just clear. Clarity is its own kind of power, not the loud kind. The kind that lets you hang up the phone without your hands shaking. I think about what it cost me to cancel those reservations. Not the money. The credit card sorted itself out. But the version of me that wanted so badly to be chosen that she would have planned another trip. And another one after that, and kept showing up to those Sunday dinners forever just to be near something that felt almost like belonging. That version of me deserved better than I was giving her. She deserved someone who said, "Enough. You've done enough. Let's see what they do when the scaffolding comes down." What they did was call. And that matters. Not because a phone call fixes 8 years, but because it showed that the dynamic had only ever stayed the same because no one had pushed back on it. The moment I stopped absorbing the cost of their comfort, the whole structure shifted. That's not luck, that's cause and effect. You change what you're willing to carry, and the people around you have to either adjust or show you exactly who they are. Kevin is still figuring out his part in this. I think he's being honest about it, which is more than I expected. That matters too. I don't know what Thursday lunch with Diane becomes. Maybe it becomes something real. Maybe it becomes another form of managed politeness with better manners. I'll find out. But I'm walking in as myself this time. Not as Kevin's wife, not as the woman who planned the trip, not as anyone's idea of useful. Just me. Whatever that means to her, she's going to have to decide. And that, finally, is not my job to arrange.